person who loves you deeply will always ask you certain questions. Questions that aren't just casual, but intentional. Because love, real love, is not passive. It's not something we say once and assume it lasts. Something we do every single day. And the way we show up for someone we love is by staying curious about them. When someone loves you deeply, they don't assume they know everything about you. They don't assume that because you smiled, you're okay. They don't look at your life from the outside and think they've figured it out. No. When someone truly loves you, they ask. They ask because they want to understand, not just observe. They want to connect, not just coexist. And it's not about asking big, dramatic questions. It's about the small but powerful questions that build trust. The kind of questions that say, I see you, I'm here for you, I care enough to ask, even when it's uncomfortable. A person who loves you deeply will ask, how are you really? Not the automatic how are you that passes in a hallway, but the one that waits for an honest answer. They will ask, what do you need from me right now? Because they know love isn't guessing games. It's not about pretending to be a mind reader. It's about being brave enough to ask so they can be there in the way you actually need. They will ask, how can I support your dreams? Because deep love doesn't compete with your purpose, it stands beside it. Someone who loves you wants you to grow, even if that growth stretches the relationship. They want to see you become the fullest version of yourself, and they want to know how they can play a role in that journey. Love is often misunderstood as a feeling we fall into, something that simply happens to us, like gravity pulling us toward another person. But real love isn't passive. It doesn't just sit quietly in the background assuming everything is fine because things are comfortable, predictable, or routine. Love, at its deepest and truest level, is active curiosity. It's the ongoing, intentional choice to keep asking, to keep wondering, to keep exploring who the other person is every single day. When we love someone deeply, we don't fall into the trap of believing we already know everything there is to know about them. We don't stop paying attention just because we've been together for years or because we've heard their stories a dozen times. Love refuses to coast on assumptions. Love leans forward. It says, tell me again. It says, I know you've changed. Help me understand who you are today. The mistake so many of us make is confusing comfort with connection. We think that just because we're no longer arguing, just because things feel smooth, we're doing well. But sometimes comfort is just quiet distance. Sometimes comfort is the absence of curiosity. And over time, that absence can create a gap where we stop seeing each other clearly, where we start filling in blanks with old answers instead of new understanding. Active curiosity in love means we're willing to ask, even when we're afraid of the answer. It means we don't shy away from difficult conversations just to keep the peace. It means we care more about knowing the truth of the other person than we do about protecting our own comfort. Because love, real love, wants to know. It wants to understand what's really going on beneath the surface. It wants to witness the evolving, complicated, beautiful story of the other person's life. Think about the last time someone asked you a question that made you feel truly seen. Maybe it wasn't a big question. Maybe it was as simple as, are you really okay? But the way they asked it, the way they leaned in, the way they waited for an honest answer reminded you that you mattered. That's what active curiosity looks like in love. It's not about interrogating or controlling. It's not about fixing. It's about showing up day after day with a genuine desire to learn and understand. When love becomes passive, it starts to drift. We assume our partner knows how we feel. We assume we know what they want. We assume that silence means satisfaction. But love doesn't thrive on assumption. Love thrives on discovery. It thrives on the willingness to keep asking, what's on your heart today? What's been hard for you lately? What's lighting you up right now? Every day, the person we love is growing, changing, evolving. Their dreams shift. Their fears deepen. Their priorities move. And when we stop being curious about those shifts, we stop truly loving them. We start loving the version of them we remember instead of the person standing right in front of us. That's why love isn't a destination. It's a journey of staying curious even when we feel like we've figured it out, even when it feels inconvenient, even when it challenges us to grow alongside them. Passive comfort might feel safe, but it slowly numbs us to the richness and depth that love can offer. Active curiosity keeps love alive. It keeps us learning, listening, leaning closer. It invites us into the messy, imperfect, beautiful process of truly knowing and being known. And in the end, isn't that what we're all longing for? Not just to be loved, but to be seen, heard, understood, and chosen over and over again by someone who never stops being curious about who we are. We live in a world obsessed with answers. Everywhere we turn, there's pressure to have it figured out, to respond quickly, to know what to say. But in love, in relationships, in the spaces that matter most, it's not the answers that reveal how much we care. It's the questions we're willing to ask. Because asking the right questions shows we're paying attention. It shows we're invested. It shows we're willing to step into someone's world, not just stand on the outside offering solutions. When someone loves you deeply, they're not always rushing to give advice or fix your problems. Instead, they pause, they listen, they ask questions that invite you to share more, to reflect more, to feel safe enough to tell the truth. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that love means having all the answers, that if we really cared, we'd know exactly what to say, exactly how to help. But the truth is, the people who care the most are often the ones humble enough to admit they don't have all the answers, and bold enough to ask instead. A well-timed, thoughtful question can open a door that no advice ever could. It can make someone feel seen in a way that a quick solution never will. Because love isn't about solving the puzzle of another person. Love is about sitting with them, asking, exploring, and discovering alongside them. It's about saying, I don't want to assume. I want to understand. Think about the people who've made you feel the most loved in your life. Chances are, it wasn't the ones who told you what to do. It wasn't the ones who had a perfect answer for every challenge you faced. It was the ones who asked questions that went deeper. The ones who cared enough to ask, how are you really? Even when you said you were fine. The ones who ask, what do you need from me right now? Instead of guessing or imposing their own ideas. The ones who ask, what matters most to you in this moment? And waited patiently for your answer. The right questions tell someone, I care enough to pause. I care enough to make space for you. I care enough to listen without jumping ahead to solutions. They communicate humility. They communicate respect. They communicate a willingness to walk alongside someone, not stand above them, offering answers from a distance. Sometimes we forget that answers can end conversations, but questions open them. When we rush to answer, we shut down possibilities. We close doors. But when we ask the right questions, we invite dialogue. We create a safe space for honesty. We give permission for vulnerability. And in that space, love grows, trust grows, connection deepens. Love doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to have it all figured out. But it does need to be curious. It needs to care enough to wonder, to ask, to check in again and again, even when we think we already know the answer. Because people change, feelings shift, needs evolve, and love that keeps asking is love that keeps up. Love that keeps asking is love that refuses to grow stagnant or distant. At the end of the day, we don't need people who always get it right. We need people who are willing to ask the right questions, even if the answers are hard. People who aren't afraid to go deeper, even if it's uncomfortable. People who care more about understanding than controlling. People who choose curiosity over certainty, connection over correction. Because the right answers might fix a problem for a moment, but the right questions can build a relationship for a lifetime. And in love, it's the questions that show we're paying attention. It's the questions that say, I see you, I want to know you, I want to understand you, even now, even still, even always. Love doesn't last simply because we say, I love you once. It doesn't sustain itself because of a big moment, a grand gesture, or a shared memory from the past. Love lasts because we choose to check in over and over again. Love is an ongoing conversation, not a statement frozen in time. It is rooted in the habit of asking, listening, and being present. Not in assuming we already know everything there is to know about the other person. The truth is, people change, feelings shift, needs evolve. But too often in relationships, we make the quiet assumption that once we know someone, we'll always know them. We assume their dreams are the same as they were last year. We assume their hurts have healed. We assume their silence means contentment. But love cannot grow where curiosity has stopped. Love begins to drift when we stop checking in and start filling in the blanks with our own guesses. Someone who loves you deeply doesn't stop asking how you're doing just because you said, I'm fine, yesterday. They don't assume your smile means everything's okay. They keep showing up, they keep asking, they keep inviting you to share what's really going on beneath the surface. Because real love knows that emotional landscapes shift like the seasons, and to stay close, we have to keep checking the weather inside each other's hearts. Checking in isn't about control. It's not about prying or micromanaging. It's about saying, I care enough to ask. It's about making space for the other person's inner world instead of assuming we've got it figured out. It's a way of showing respect for their growth, their struggles, their joys, and their fears. When we check in consistently, we're saying, I don't want to love the version of you I remember. I want to love the version of you standing in front of me right now. Assumptions feel easier. They let us stay comfortable. They let us believe we already know what our partner needs, what they feel, what they want. But assumptions create distance. They close the door on discovery. They silently communicate, I've stopped being curious about you. And over time, those small moments of disconnection pile up. The distance grows. The relationship starts to feel stale, not because love is gone, but because curiosity has faded. When we choose to check in, we keep the conversation alive. We remind the person we love that their voice matters, their feelings matter, their inner world matters. We create a safe space where honesty can flourish. We show them that love isn't a contract we sign once. It's an ongoing commitment to see, hear, and understand each other again and again. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes a simple, how's your heart today, is enough. Or is there something weighing on you that you haven't said out loud yet? Or even, what's been bringing you joy lately? Small questions, asked consistently, build trust. They build intimacy. They build a foundation that can weather the inevitable storms of life. The couples, friends, and families who stay connected over time aren't the ones who never face challenges. They're the ones who keep checking in, even when life gets busy, even when things feel okay on the surface. They refuse to let assumptions replace conversations. They know that love isn't mind reading, it's mutual sharing. At its core, love is a practice. And checking in is one of the most powerful practices we can commit to. It keeps the relationship alive, dynamic, and responsive. It prevents the quiet drift that happens when we think we know, but we've stopped asking. Love doesn't thrive in silence. Love thrives in the daily intentional act of staying curious about each other's inner world. Because in the end, love isn't just about feeling connected, it's about staying connected. And the only way we stay connected is by consistently showing up and asking, how are you really? And then being willing to listen. Love is often measured by what people do, the gifts they give, the words they say, the promises they make. But if you look closer, love is even more deeply revealed in what people ask. The quality of someone's questions tells you everything about how deeply they care, how closely they're paying attention, and how much they truly want to understand you. Because love isn't just about presence, it's about curiosity. It's about wanting to know the layers beneath what's visible. A person who loves you deeply won't just ask surface-level questions. They won't stop at, how was your day, or what did you do? They'll ask, how did today make you feel? What was the hardest part of your day? Their questions are an invitation. Let me in. I want to understand. You're safe with me. The quality of their questions shows that they're not content with shallow answers. They don't want to stay on the surface, smiling and nodding while pretending everything's fine. They want depth. They want honesty. They want intimacy. The kind of intimacy that can only be built when two people are willing to be vulnerable, willing to explore, willing to ask, even when the answers might challenge them. When someone loves you deeply, their questions evolve as you evolve. They're not locked into an old version of you. They don't assume you're the same person you were last year, last month, or even yesterday. They ask because they know you're growing, shifting, changing. They ask because they want to keep up with the person you're becoming. Their love is dynamic, not stagnant. Their curiosity doesn't fade with time, it deepens. And it's not just the big, serious questions that show love. Sometimes it's the small, thoughtful ones, the ones that remember the details. How did that meeting go? Did you ever hear back about that opportunity? You still feeling anxious about that situation? Those questions communicate, I see you. I'm paying attention. I remembered. It's in those moments that we realize love isn't just about grand declarations. It's built in the daily practice of noticing and asking. People who love us deeply make space for our complexity. Their questions aren't designed to box us in or simplify us. They're designed to give us room to be fully ourselves. They don't rush to solutions. They don't try to fix everything with advice. Instead, they ask questions that open doors, questions that make us think, reflect, and grow. They ask questions that honor our autonomy and respect our journey. In a world full of noise, where so many people are quick to talk, quick to advise, quick to assume, it's rare and beautiful to find someone who slows down enough to ask the right questions. Someone whose curiosity is rooted not in control, but in care. Someone who doesn't just want to know about you, but wants to know you, the real you, beneath the roles, the masks, the routines. The quality of their questions is the measure of their love because it shows their willingness to keep learning you over and over again. It shows they haven't stopped being curious. It shows they haven't stopped wanting to understand your heart, your mind, your dreams. And when you find someone who keeps asking, not out of obligation, but out of love, you've found someone whose love runs deep. Love isn't just about saying the right words or doing grand gestures. Love is about creating a space where another person feels safe enough to be fully themselves. And one of the most powerful ways love creates that safety is through inquiry, through the simple, intentional act of asking. Because when we ask thoughtful questions, when we invite someone to share their inner world, we're telling them, your thoughts matter, your feelings matter, your story matters. A person who loves you deeply doesn't assume they already know everything about you. They don't stop being curious just because they've been close to you for a long time. Instead, they keep asking. They ask because they want to understand who you are today, not just who you were yesterday. Their questions are not invasive or demanding, they are invitations. Gentle openings that say, you can trust me with your truth. It's in that asking that safety is created. Because when someone makes space for your voice, when they listen without judgment, when they don't rush to interrupt or correct, they're building a foundation of trust. They're showing you that you can be honest here, even with the parts of yourself you usually hide. Love uses inquiry not to control, but to connect. It asks not because it's entitled to answers, but because it longs to know you more deeply. Think about the last time someone really made you feel safe. It probably wasn't because they gave you advice or told you what to do. It was because they asked, "How are you really?" and then sat with you in the answer. It was because they didn't flinch when you told the truth. They didn't try to fix you or minimize your feelings. They just stayed. They kept asking. They kept listening. That's what love does. It creates a space where the truth can live without fear. Inquiry in love isn't about interrogation. It's not about prying or forcing someone to reveal what they're not ready to share. It's about gently opening doors, offering opportunities, and letting the other person decide when and how to walk through them. It's patient, it's respectful, it waits for readiness instead of demanding immediate vulnerability. And because of that patience, the other person feels safe enough to eventually say, here's what's really going on. Love that creates safe spaces doesn't rush the process. It knows that trust is built little by little, moment by moment, question by question. It doesn't assume silence means everything's fine. It doesn't gloss over discomfort or ignore tension. Instead, it leans in. It asks, is there something you're not saying? What's been heavy on your heart? How can I show up for you better? These questions signal care. They signal attentiveness. They say, you don't have to carry this alone. When love is rooted in inquiry, it fosters a relationship where people can breathe, where they can exhale, where they know they won't be judged for their flaws or shamed for their struggles. It creates an environment where honesty feels possible, even when honesty is hard. And in that space, healing happens, growth happens. Passion is deepened. Many relationships falter, not because love disappears, but because curiosity fades. We stop asking, we stop checking in, we start assuming, and slowly the safe space closes. But love that keeps asking keeps the door open. Love that keeps inquiring keeps the relationship alive, dynamic, responsive. At its heart, inquiry is an act of humility. It's saying, I don't have you all figured out, and I never want to assume I do. It's a posture of wonder, of respect, of ongoing discovery. And it's through that ongoing discovery that love creates the deepest safety, the kind of safety where both people can show up fully, vulnerably, honestly, and still be held. Because in the end, love isn't just about loving who someone is. It's about loving the process of getting to know them again and again every single day. And the questions we ask are the bridges that carry us closer to that knowing. Love is often misunderstood as a mission to solve, to rescue, to repair. But real love isn't a project. It's not about fixing someone into a version we prefer. Love's deepest work is not about changing someone, it's about seeing them. And one of the most powerful ways love shows up is through the questions it asks. Love's questions aren't designed to diagnose or control. They're meant to understand, to witness, to honor the truth of who you are. When someone loves you deeply, they don't approach you as a problem to solve. They approach you as a person to know. But their questions aren't laced with hidden agendas or quiet judgments. They don't ask so they can craft the perfect solution or steer you toward their own version of right. They ask because they want to see you more clearly, because they know that being truly seen is one of the greatest gifts love can give. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that love must always be actionable, that if someone is hurting, we need to fix it. If they're struggling, we need to find answers. But sometimes what the heart needs most is not advice. It's not direction, it's presence. It's the safety of someone asking, tell me what you're feeling. What's weighing on you? What do you need from me in this moment? And then simply listening, without rushing to fill the silence with solution. When love asks questions, it's creating space. It's saying, I'm here for you not because I need to fix you, but because I want to know what it's like to stand where you're standing. Love's questions let us lower our guard. They give us permission to speak honestly, knowing we won't be judged or managed. They let us unfold the parts of ourselves we've hidden, trusting that the other person won't try to rearrange them to fit their own expectations. Love that aims to fix sees brokenness first. But love that aims to see starts with dignity. It starts with respect. It starts with the belief that even in our pain, even in our messiness, even in our uncertainty, we are worthy of being known exactly as we are. And because of that belief, love's questions are gentle. They're thoughtful. They're open-ended, inviting, welcoming. They aren't designed to trap us into answers that make others comfortable. They're designed to make us feel safe enough to tell the truth. Don't think of the difference between someone asking, what's wrong with you, and someone asking, what's hurting right now? One feels like an accusation, the other feels like an embrace. One puts you on the defensive, the other invites you to be vulnerable. Love's questions lean toward the latter. They don't come from impatience or frustration. They come from curiosity, from care, from a desire to walk alongside rather than stand above. When we're asked the right questions by someone who loves us, we begin to feel seen in ways we didn't even know we needed. We realize that love isn't about erasing our struggles. It's about witnessing them, sharing the weight of them, honoring them as part of our story. Love doesn't need us to be perfect before it asks. It asks because it wants to know us even in our imperfection. The most powerful love doesn't rush to conclusions. It doesn't fill in the blanks before we've had a chance to speak. It doesn't treat our emotions as problems to be solved. It simply says, I'm here, I'm listening, I want to understand. And sometimes being understood is the very thing that begins to heal us, not because someone fixed us, but because someone finally saw us. In the end, love's questions remind us that we are not alone, that we are worthy of being known even in our hardest moments, and that real love doesn't try to mold us into something else. It simply invites us to be fully ourselves, knowing that we are already enough.